Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I have another interview for you today. I got to sit down with Mair Mulroney to talk about her newest movie, Unchained, which is available now. We actually got to sit down and talk with the director, so check out that interview as well. It's a cool action movie, and what I found really cool about this was that Mair didn't have a ton of previous experience in these kind of martial arts and action in this way. So she accepted the role and then really trained up and rose to the occasion, which is awesome. I imagine as an actor, doing a role like an Unchained, a kind of fight action martial arts movie, at least for me, would be like the pinnacle of fun to be able to do that as your job. The results were cool. It was a really fun interview. Mair also has a lot of other things going on. She does music as well, and she has a Star Wars kind of half unofficial fan film coming out soon. We don't go too deep into that. More to come on that, and I'm going to try to get her back on to talk about her Star Wars experience when that comes around. But for now, enjoy the interview. Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with Mair Mulroney to talk about her newest movie, Unchained. How you doing, Mair?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for coming on. This should be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
The one boilerplate thing that I like to do is I always like to ask creative people to go back to the beginning of their creative journey and talk about like what your spark was and kind of how you got your start.
So I've always known that entertainment was where I was going to be. So I was just always that kind of creative person. Didn't do good in school type of thing. Wasn't for me, except for maybe creative writing. So I've always I was musical for sure. I've always like played piano and sang in choirs and was writing songs and stuff. So that's kind of where I really started, was more on the music end of things. But once I moved out to LA, after I had like a couple of like distribution deals with Warner and Universal, I had a big falling out with label reps and management and stuff, and ended up falling into the world of commercial acting, which is huge in LA. And I guess I had dabbled in it a little bit, like in high school, kind of in the start of my career. But yeah, so ever since I got out here, that kind of just ended up taking over my life for the most part. So yeah, I just kind of never looked back and just decided, hey, okay, this is what's working for me. I'm going to go for it. And it's still a creative avenue that I absolutely love. And get to work with really, really cool people, and the behind the scenes aspect of everything is amazing. So yeah, I guess that would be the start of things. Yeah.
Very cool. And we don't have to get into the bad side of the label issues, but you're also a musician.
I am. Yeah. Yeah. So more independent. I just work independently now. I think labels can be great if you're surrounded with the right people. And that takes a magnificent stroke of luck, I would say. There's a lot of great indie labels, though, that's become a very, very popular thing. A lot of bands are signing, have been for probably the past 10 years or so, more with indie labels. And that seems to work really well creatively for them, gives them a lot more freedom. So, yeah.
And that's something you still keep up alongside with your acting career?
Yeah. When filming schedules are when they're really busy, because you're working like 12 to 14-hour days sometimes, and it's just back to back to back, and you really don't get a chance to breathe. So obviously that's draining, and the creativity really isn't there to even be able to write or create any music. But in the downswings and the downsides of times, then yeah, the music always picks back up, and it's back into the studio. So it's always about kind of staying active, and keeping those creative wheels.
I just lost you for a second. There's no. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
The audio dropped out for a minute.
Yeah, some had a call from Florida coming in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're just saying you kind of have to keep the creative juices flowing, and yeah, that's it's really cool that you're multi-talented like that. And I feel like it would be a lot to keep up with, but if you love doing it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's fun, and the rewards are so great. If you love what you do for a living, like that's the ultimate goal, is to be able to make money and sustain yourself doing what you love. And that's with any, I think, career, like it just in life in general, no matter what you do, as long as you enjoy doing it. There's nothing worse than being like, oh God, I got to do this today. you know, it's
For sure.
life's too short.
Yes, absolutely. That's a very good sentiment. And you mentioned in high school, even though it wasn't your thing, you were into the creative writing parts. Is writing something you also keep up with?
Yeah. So obviously as a musician, I'm a writer, but I do have been getting into writing screenplays and definitely like short sketches and stuff like that, even though a lot of things that I do are very much improv based. Um, but journaling and anything I just love writing. It's very, very fun. I like to read and stuff too. So but that's, I guess, we're reading a lot of scripts and stuff all the time and getting things in. So it's kind of makes sense. But I'm
For
more of
sure,
like
yeah.
a fantasy reader, I would say. I love
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That's your genre.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything good currently?
um, to be honest with you, not right this moment. I did pick up a book at the airport the other day, or a couple weeks ago, and it was a little bit disappointing to me. I was thinking it was going to be really good, so I'm not going to name drop it because I don't want to. But I was thinking, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And it was like in that fantasy realm, and I was just kind of like, the descriptions aren't there. Like he doesn't really like. I like the crazy visuals and stuff like that. So I was a little disappointed. And then I've had a really crazy filming schedule the past couple of weeks, so I have not had a chance to sit down and just relax with a book in a while.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. You come home, you're tired, you just got to crash or unwind.
Yeah.
Very cool. Is the writing scripts and things like that, did that jump up a lot given the last year since people had a lot of time for things like that, or is it just something you were doing anyway?
That's something I was doing anyways. In fact, I think it kind of died down over the past year. I ended up getting really, really busy during COVID, which
Yeah.
was very strange. Just like life and um, you know, um, living situations and stuff. It's like everyone's on top of each other all of the time, so there's not a lot of free time or places to go to escape to write. So I've kind of been getting back into it the past couple of months, but yeah, I mean, there's upswings and downswings, and sometimes when you have that downtime, you're like, oh, this is so nice and leisurely, and then you get busy again, and you're like, oh, you just can't even focus on it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that if you're not exercising that muscle all the time, you kind of feel like you just can't get the gears moving.
Yeah, exactly. Do you write as well?
I do, yeah, yeah.
See, yeah, that statement, I was like, okay, he knows what he's talking
Yeah,
about.
right, yeah. It's always fun, but then if you take too much time off, it's so hard to get it going again.
It does, yeah, it is. It's hard.
You also mentioned improv. Is that improv comedy specifically, or just kind of more free form?
Um, it ends up being a lot of comedy, just depending on like who you're working with. But yeah, I mean, I didn't train or anything like that. I think it just comes from being on sets and stuff a lot, and when you work with the same people, consistently, you kind of have a quick, good banter back and forth. So it's like, okay, so this is the situation. This is where we are. Here are the beats that we need to hit. Here's the blocking, and go. And you just kind of spitball and spitfire things back and forth, and it's a lot of fun. It does end up becoming comedic a lot of the time, but it not even really needing to be it. And I think honestly, like a lot of the best dramas have comedy in them. And a lot of the best comedies are dramas as well. It's just it's kind of that it gives you that human dynamic, because sometimes things happen and it's really crappy and it's really not good, but it's funny, and you have to learn to laugh about it in life. So that comes across in filming a lot too.
That's awesome. It sounds like, I mean, obviously you are an entertainer, a born entertainer, because that free form thing to me, not being an entertainer, just sounds terrifying.
Yeah, well, it's a skill, it's a muscle that you have to you got to train it kind of. And it just comes from when you're comfortable and you know your beats and you know like, okay, this is how this situation is going to move, or this is how the camera is going to hit. And when you're just comfortable and with everything, you're really just having like a conversation with somebody. It's just being filmed. So you have to be you have to know your angles, you have to know how to cheat to camera, and you have to know your marks, and you have to be very conscious of the other person and trying not to step on their lines and whatnot. And we all mess up. It's fine. Um, but yeah, once you get out of your head with all of those things, which just takes time and practice and being in those situations and knowing how to navigate, once you get through it, it's there's nothing to even be stressed out about at all.
That's a really good attitude to have on it. um, Speaking of all those things like blocking and knowing the camera and everything, your new movie, I guess we're jumping in, is an action movie. Have you done action before?
I had done like light stunt work, but no, I had never done an action film before. So this was really an exciting project to be able to jump into, and learned a lot, like a lot.
So that was part of the big draw, was doing something you had not done before and taking on the challenge.
Absolutely. And I've always wanted to do action. I think everybody's kind of, a lot of actors, their goal in life is to do a Marvel film at some point in time. So it was yeah, that was a lot of fun, and it's cool. It's so different. You know what I mean? And you don't really have to like worry about looking good, like as far as like attractiveness or being pretty and stuff. It's just so not about that. So that's kind of a freeing thing and a relief, because so many times you get in front of the camera or you get on set and it's, oh wait, cut, like, is my hair okay? Or the makeup person comes and it's like, oh, somebody's so poised, and you're acting with someone who's like very stiff because they are so concerned about what they look like. And it's like, can we just get to the feeling of this now? So it was very cool to be able to kind of just be nitty gritty and like, all right, this is what it is. And it's more about the action. It's more about the fight scenes, and it's a lot of fun. So much fun.
uh, how did I have so many questions and I'm trying to keep it all straight. How did that movie come across your desk? How did you first get the script for Unchained?
I'm friends with one of the two of the producers, and well, now I'm friends with all of the producers. But before then, I was friends with two of the producers, John Bryan and Ilya Konstantin. Very good friends with them, actually. And Ilya was a co-writer on the film with our director, Raffaello, and they had a working relationship prior. So they had been throwing around the idea of this, like the concept of this film, and they had talked to me about it. I saw some rough versions of the script as they were starting to get it together, and it was really more of like a kind of like a friends type of thing of, hey, what do you think? Do you think this is a good idea? And hey, yeah, I think you should go for it. Would you want to be a part of it? Yeah, absolutely. Cool. If you have a role for me in there, absolutely. I'm totally down. Okay, cool. You start fight training on Monday. And it was like, okay. And I started training with Svetlana, who is also in the film, and she was fantastic, and it was a lot of fun to train with her. And I don't think either of us knew what they had in mind, like which role we were going to get. They were still going through casting. They were talking about name talent that they wanted to get for the film. And then once we got the final version of the script a few weeks into training, they sent it to me and they were like, okay, well, we have you in mind for Ayala. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, yeah, I thought I was probably going to play, probably Mary Chris's character is what I thought I was going to play. But no, they ended up giving me the lead role. And I thought that was really cool. And I think, so a lot of it came with trust, and having that relationship with them, knowing that I was a reliable person, and that I could handle the physicality of the role, that goes a long way, especially when you're working with tighter budgets and it's like, we don't have time to start over. We don't have time to recast. That's just money out the door and it doesn't come back. So, that it's very important to be able to work with people that you trust in those type of situations. And also, who's not gonna, if you're dealing with like permits and you're dealing with insurance and stuff, it's okay. Who's going to be the least headache for us right now? And what people don't realize is that's a huge part of acting, and that's a huge part of working in this industry. Who is not going to give us a headache? So the diva thing is not, it's not the way to go. It's not a good move.
Pro advice right there.
Yeah.
So speaking of the physicality and that you'd only done like a little bit of action type stuff before, how was that training?
It was intense. It was really intense. It was fun. It was great. I was sore. I've never been so sore in my entire life. I don't think, just like consistently sore for months. Like, but eventually, like, you start getting more fluid, I guess. But it was yeah, I mean, it's a great workout. You'll get in shape real quick doing that. But I think the most fun came, like, you work on your technique and stuff and just your endurance. But the fun part really came with working with our stunt choreographer, who is Gene Freeman. He's fantastic. He's done a bunch of stuff. And he was really great to work with. That's the fun part, where it's like developing the fight scenes, and it's like, okay, you're gonna come in here, and it's also kind of dangerous because if you mess up and you go in while someone's you'll get hit. So you have to be on your toes for that. But that was probably my favorite part.
One thing I noticed, and I had mentioned this I had talked to the director last week. I love that he pulled the camera back so that you and the other actors could really do your thing and show that you put in the work. It wasn't, all up front and shaky and looked like you were just cutting a bunch of stuff together.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool observation that you had. And I know that there were certain times where we definitely did come in close. But yeah, you do get to see more of it, which I guess is there's more room for critique and error and in my technique, I guess, in that sense. So it's a little bit more nerve-wracking for me. But yeah, it was important to be able to see all of that, because otherwise it's just, and you get a headache kind of watching too much up close shakiness. Sometimes you're like, okay, what's going on? Yeah. And all of the girls put in a lot of work, so they deserve their work to be seen and, and appreciated for sure.
Yeah, you didn't go through all that to, if it was like 8 cuts per punch, then you didn't really need any training. You could just cut that together and.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you train in anything specifically? Like, was it kickboxing specific or any other kind of specific martial art, or was it just kind of how to move and?
It was mainly boxing. Mainly boxing. We did get into some kickboxing for sure. But it was mainly boxing and just knowing how to block and move. And one thing they were kind of which was funny to me, because I was so worried about, like, oh my God, like, I'm not really a fighter. I mean, I will fight, don't get it twisted, but my technique is not, it is not there. And they were like, you know what, you don't have to be perfect, because your character isn't perfect. Your character didn't come in here knowing how to fight in this situation. She grows and she gets better, but it's more about her spirit than her actual technique. And that gave me kind of like a sigh of relief. I was like, okay, cool. So it doesn't have to be perfect. But I mean, watching things back, I'm like, oh, I should have done this better. I guess you're always your worst critic or your biggest critic, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not that I'm saying I saw any flaws. I didn't, but it's a good point that your character, you weren't a Golden Gloves boxer who got roped into this thing. You maybe took some classes at a local gym and then got thrown into this hell world and had to figure it out.
Yeah. The backstory that we had kind of come up with for the character that, it's not really stated in the film at all, but we were kind of thinking like, all right, so what's her, why her? Like, why does she end up getting kidnapped? And it was like, okay, well, at her age, she probably went into the military straight out of high school, so doesn't really have an education. That's why she's having trouble getting a job. But then that makes her a good candidate for, potentially has some combat experience or something like that, which is why they target her as somebody who they think would do well in this type of underworld situation. But she's definitely not a trained fighter by any means. So that's kind of what we were thinking in our heads when we were kind of talking about, motivation and whatnot.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I did forget that they mentioned that your character was in the Army in the beginning. So I'm like, oh, that does make sense. All right.
Did they? Huh. Well,
I just watched it this morning, so don't feel bad.
Okay.
I kept it as fresh as possible.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Aside from the fight training, was there anything, maybe not uniquely challenging, but anything that was challenging about this shoot?
I was asked this question the other day, and I remember specifically speaking with Ilya and being like, this is like probably a couple weeks in, was like, this has been going really smoothly, right? Like, too smoothly. Like when is the big catastrophe going to happen? Because normally with filming, you are constantly running like overtime. Like something always happens. Like something always goes wrong. And for some reason, that just wasn't really the case in this situation. We did have one day where we filmed like a fight, like the fight montage scene. So it was like I was fighting 7 different girls that day, maybe more, and maybe 9. I don't know exactly. And that was a very long day. We had extras and stuff, and we rented a location for that, where time was of the essence, and we really didn't want to have to reshoot or come back another day or reschedule. And I ended up hitting my head really hard, stupidly. Like first thing in the morning, I was stretching and I was doing a back bend. My hand slipped and I hit my head on the concrete. And everybody was like, it echoed really loud. And they were like, oh my God. They were sure I had a concussion. I didn't. I was fine. But it was... So that was a day.
Well, luckily it turned out better than it could have.
Yeah.
So conversely, just to not focus on the negative, was there anything that was aside? Well, I guess it went smooth, so that's one thing. That was just exceptionally fun or interesting.
Yeah. Being able to work with your friends. That's the coolest, like best, like that's the ideal situation. I mean, you want to work on big projects with big name directors and with big actors who you've never gotten to work with, and you want to experience those things. And being on major sets is very, very cool, and it's very fun, and it's those lifetime experiences that you never forget. And that's kind of like that's when you soak it all in. You're like, I'm here, I made it. But working with your friends and being able to create a movie together is so awesome. Like that's the best. That's the best part. I mean, that's what the Seth Rogens and the Adam Sandlers of the world do. Like they're like, if I make a movie, I'm doing it with my buddies. I'm doing it with my friends. We're doing it together because we're going to be spending a lot of time together. So I want to make sure that I like the people that I'm around. And we kind of just get to share the wealth and share the love. And that to me was probably the coolest part.
It's really cool that you are aware of it and can appreciate it even as it's going on. Because so many people I talk to who make the indie movies with such tight shoots and, it's over in a blink, even though you're doing 16-hour days.
Yeah.
They almost can't appreciate it till a few months later. They're like, oh man, that was really a good time. I was just so busy. I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's understandable. It's just, I've been in the game for a while, and I do appreciate the behind the scenes aspect of everything. I love production as well. So, it's, you kind of have to stop and look around and be like, man, man, we're doing it. Are we making a movie, guys? We're doing it. Okay, let's go,
Yeah. Especially when you're doing something new, like an action movie, you're taking on these new physical challenges and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's got to be so fun.
It was a lot of fun, and it's, bigger, better things to come, is the hope for everybody involved, honestly, so.
Yeah, I guess as an actor, that's one of those things now you can, another arrow in your quiver. You have some fight training, you have some experience. So
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to do more of it too. Anytime.
As far as things going forward, and maybe this is a question that actors hate to be asked, but do you have anything cool you're looking at? I know you probably can't get into specifics, but
Yeah, no, I do have a couple of really cool projects that I'm very excited to be able to share with people. I see that you're probably a Star Wars fan.
definitely, yeah.
So I did this project called Sands of Fate. It's like an episode, a Star Wars episodic project. It falls in the fan film category because it's not owned by Disney. But you're working with people who work for Disney when you do this project, and it's in post-production right now. I've seen some teasers for it, and I'm so excited to be able to share it with people. It's probably one of the coolest projects I've ever been on, produced by Escape Velocity Content and directed by Tim Martin. And it has a lot of people in it who are in that world, who are legitimately, they work on The Mandalorian. They, some of the character actors, they work for Disney as, C-3PO or, other characters, and they're in The Mandalorian as well. So you have people who are really, really, really in that world. And when you step on set, you're in Star Wars. All the characters to caricatures to the puppets, and it's absolutely insane. So that was a magical thing for me to be able to be a part of, and I can't wait to share it with people. So
That sounds awesome. I'll definitely be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, definitely.
And as far as your music, are you able to work on anything? You said you've been pretty busy.
Yeah, I have been. I have a couple of things in the coffers that I just haven't released yet, so I should probably do that. I just released a lyric video for one of my songs, Fallen. I have like a duo group that I work with, my production partner called Mark. His name's Mark Solomon, and our group is called KISS, Keep It Simple Stupid, because we overthink everything all the time. And our best work usually comes from not trying too hard. So that's what we try to remind ourselves. So yeah, we have a project out right now. Freedom, the theme song for, or the rolling credit song for Unchained is out. And there's a remix for that I need to release as well. So there's always things. There's always things coming out.
That's awesome. Do you want to tell people where they can find your music, your work, and maybe you online if you do social media or anything?
Yeah, pretty much if you search That Girl Mair, one word, and Mair is spelled M-A-I-R, music will pop up. Also, that'll lead you straight to the other project, the Keep It Simple Stupid project. My handle for Instagram is That Girl Mair. TikTok is Mair Mulroney. And YouTube, I'll be putting out a bunch of YouTube videos over the next few months, and continued. So we've got been shooting 15 videos in the past 2 weeks. So that's a very intense schedule. And that it's That Girl Mair on YouTube as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to come on, especially since you've been filming 15 videos in 2 weeks and doing everything else on top of it. That was a lot of fun. I really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you. So great to talk to you, Adam.
Absolutely. You too.
Bye.
I'd like to thank Mair one more time for coming on the show to talk to me about Unchained and everything she has going on in her career. It's a great conversation, a lot of fun. Unchained, available now. Check it out. Make sure you like and subscribe. We have a lot more interviews, a lot more new movie coverage coming your way. I have unboxings piling up, and my shelves in my office are desperate to see this stuff, so I got to get those out to you guys soon. Also, make sure you listen to So Is Her Podcast every single week wherever you get your podcasts. SoIsHerPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, merchandise, videos, and more. So Is Her Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month you get multiple monthly bonus shows. And we love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media. All the accounts can be found after the show and in the show notes. And on a more personal note, a good friend and I have a comedy comic series out right now. It's called Social Studies. We just wrapped up the first chapter, 7 full-color, awesome issues available now. We're working on a Kickstarter, and then we're going to jump right into Chapter 2, so more to come. It's a great time to jump on board. Check that out at socialstudiescomic.com. Thanks.